YouTube, Quinway coming to y'all with some basketball analysis on YouTube and on analysisplayground.com. We're going to talk about the offseason moves that become official or might become official as it is June 30th, and people can negotiate new contracts or they can negotiate a trade that they can finalize before the season start. And it's good to start the season knowing what you got, knowing what you're trying to do, and also what goals you're trying to accomplish with the team that you have been able to put together if you're a GM or a coach. And that's a confident thing to know going into the season. Well, some names are going to be lesser known and some names are going to be high profile for people that are fair weather fans or casuals to people that's hardcore NBA fans. Guys like Najee Marshall, who agreed to a 3-year, $27 million deal with the Dallas Mavericks. Won't matter as much to those people, but for the hardcore, I do it for them too. He's basically a scorer, um, and they needed more scoring. They needed more ball handling. They needed more people that can contribute to the offensive end. Marshall did average 7 points, 3 rebounds, 1.9 assists. He did shoot 38% from three in 19 minutes. That's really good production off the bench in 66 games, and the Mavericks took advantage of needing these low level players that can contribute and make a difference within the 9 to 10 spot roster, or sometimes they can be the seventh or the eighth best player on the roster, and you can put them in with your superstars and they can just fit like glue and just knock down shots to make plays. And I feel like Najee Marshall is one of those guys that can do that um, for any team that he's on. Mason Plumlee, he agrees to a 1 year deal with the Suns worth 3.3 million. He's just a solid player. He can dunk, he can rebound, he can kind of sort of protect the rim depending on the position that he in. He's very strong, good body, can set some decent screens. The Suns were expected to add the depth behind Yusuf Nurkic outside of just Bol, who's not as big and as strong and not as great a defender when it comes to face up, but he's a good rotation defender that can block shots. But they need somebody to do both, and I feel like Plumlee can do that. Obviously, the number's not going to stand out to you: 5 points, 5 rebounds, 1.2 assists. But in 46 games, that's not that bad, considering that you only need him to be a role player and a guy that's not eating up significant time or playing a huge role. He can still be a difference maker, especially if an injury occurs and other guys have to step up. He can be one that can do that because he has a huge track record of that. Jonas Valanciunas, Wizards agreed to a 3-year deal. With that, they just drafted Alex Sarr. They need somebody to teach him some post moves in the future, so that way he can do more than just catch and dunk and be more assertive. Obviously, Jonas can also hit a mid range or a three. I think that's what the modern day center is going to do, and I feel like he still is one of the best centers in the game. And to get him, for this cheap of a deal, that's basically $10 million a year. That's about what you're going to get if you're a center that has multiple things you can do offensively and just being solid defensively. This is the market that paid that easily. It didn't even take him no time. I do want to say that he did average 12 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 assists in only 23 minutes per game in the 82 games last season that he played with the New Orleans Pelicans. He was really, really decent, in that span with the Pelicans, that they wasn't even a rush to get rid of him. They had to wait to free agency to lose him just because he has freedom to pick out the best deal for himself, and that's probably the only reason why he's gone. Chris Paul, one of the biggest names still. Spurs agreed to a 1-year deal worth $11 million. He's always going to be worth it because the knowledge and the things you can gain from him, the tutoring you can gain from him, the way he handles the ball, the way he values possession, the way he defends, the ways he's feisty, the way he leads in his mentorship, and his ability just to be a great product on the court, even though at this advanced age, he hasn't been what he should have been, but you know, he still is a decent player in the NBA. In 26 minutes, he still was able to give you 9 points, 4 rebounds, and 6.8 assists. Playing 26 minutes, that's above average. But it just show you how good he really still is. That teams prioritized him Soon as he ended up losing his contract worth $30 million, he got picked up a couple of hours later. Eric Gordon, Sixers agreed to a 1 year, $3.3 million deal. He didn't really like how the Suns played. He didn't like their communication. He didn't like where their head game was at. So he leaves to go play with Joel Embiid and them with the Sixers. They need more ball handling. They need more scoring. They need more playmaking. And they need a little bit more eruption off the bench. And I feel like Eric Gordon has provided it. He's a former Six Man of the Year. And, he averaged 11 points, which is double figures off the bench last year, while still being a solid 3-point shooter. At that, Caldwell Pope and the Magic agreed to a 3-year deal. He leads the NBA championships that it won one season ago, and he decides to go for the big bank. This is probably the last big payday he's going to get, and it's going to be 3 years, $66 million. This guy can shoot the mid range. He can get to the basket. He can shoot a three at a decent clip, and he can really defend decently too. And the Magic, they're trying to make a move to make themselves more competitive, and I think that this is a move that helps him with that, and is not an expensive slash pricey move either. And he was a guy that declined that $15.4 million, and he said he can get a better deal and he can, help these teams grow like Denver did. Is that, or Denver just like the Titanic, they losing so much talent each and every year after the championship. And most people say it's hard for a championship team to win back to back because everybody leaves for their own business side of it or their own reasoning, and they don't really care about the team, or they're not all in as a team no more after the championship is reached. And it just shows you that it's slowly falling down for the Nuggets, but by their youngest players, by their players being so young, when it comes to their core still being under 30, they still can make a run at it. They just got to patch up these holes and hope that they can get another one. But at least they won it, instead of just being coming up close and just not being able to get it done. So that's one thing I give the Denver Nuggets credit on. They got it done with Jokic at least one time before the Titanic started to fall. But it happens. Cade Cunningham also agreed to a 5 years, $226 million extension. That's high. Like, this is a guy that you feel like you can build your franchise around. This is a guy that you feel like can solve a lot of your problems. He's a guy that did average 22, 7, and 4. Those are elite numbers for a guy that's only in his third year. And the fact that he's more healthier, and since the team got eliminated, he can add more to his game in the offseason like most of the great players do, especially because he's healthier and he's feeling good. I can say that I will vouch that Cade Cunningham is going to be a monster in the NBA, and we seen that last year, that he can dominate the ball, he can play make, he turns it over a lot, but he also isn't the greatest efficiency scorer yet, but he's not that far from being above average. Like, he has decent high volume scoring numbers and decent high volume playmaking numbers, but let him, adjust to the NBA, let him get used to the NBA, and let him get used to some of these defenders and some of these players, then he can do what he did in college and not just take over and dominate. And I feel like he got closer to that this season more than ever, and all I can do is say I'm proud of him, and the contract is an example of them seeing the same thing. We like everything we done seen so far, so we want to make sure you get treated as a priority because of that, and it makes a lot of sense. And just remember, this is only his fourth season this year, that's about to start, which is the 24-25 season. Also, James Harden and the Clippers agreed to a 1+1 deal worth $70 million. He wants to be able to stay a Clipper this season, and if he doesn't like it, he can leave next year, or he can just stay another year just because he can. And if they don't trade him or they don't feel like it's working, they can always say, well, the contract is worth keeping, or is going to have some value because James Harden is still above average player and a starter. So it's going to be a little bit of a market for him. And we seen that, a couple weeks ago, that people still was interested in him outside of the Clippers. Like, we knew that when he got traded last year, but people still want James Harden just because his playmaking and scoring is tough to do at that position. And he did average 16.5 rebounds and 8.5 assists in 34 minutes, playing high minutes, still giving you high production, and really can score the basketball still. Mavericks more likely to move on from Derrick Jones Jr. Kevin Porter Jr. also agreed to a 2-year deal with the Clippers. Andre Drummond and the Sixers agreed to a 2-year deal worth $10 million. Nemesis, Nemasas Quigta and the Celtics agreed to a deal. Russell Westbrook and the mutual interest that the Denver Nugget has in him. That's another one to look at. Nicholas Batum won't be re-signed by the Sixers. That's something that we do have to say. Luke Cornett comes back with the Boston Celtics on a 1-year deal. Kevin Love did agree also to a 2-year deal worth $8 million. I feel like that was a good thing. He can set those screens. He can really space the floor. He can hit a mid range. He can hit a three. He's a great passer. He's an unselfish player. So it makes sense why the Heat would want to bring him back, especially because they need bigs that can space the floor. Before Chris Paul was waived, he actually had another place to go to. Max Christie and the Los Angeles Lakers agreed to a 4-year, $32 million deal. He's a young, exciting player. He's also an asset that they can use in the future if he does outplay, just based off growth. He can be something important to them in the future, even if as a player or as an asset that can be traded or looked at as a great piece to another team or to theirs. Other than that, it's just about Paul George and Klay Thompson pursuing their options, looking at their options and seeing that, there's not that many teams that's interested, especially for the money that they want. And it's unfortunate, but, the older you get, this is basically how it goes. Obi Toppin and the Pacers did agree to a 4-year extension worth $60 million. Alex Len actually found his way into a 10-year career as him and the Kings agreed to a 1-year, $3.3 million deal. That was important just for his career. DeMar DeRozan may wait to find the next deal. He's still waiting on what happens with Klay and Paul George, and then his market will open up. A lot of teams are interested in him. Patrick Williams and the Bulls do agree to a 5-year, $90 million contract. He has a lot of potential. He can play defense a little bit. He can dunk the ball. He still needs some of that perimeter game, mid-range and three, if he wants to take his game to another level, or even if he's going to be a high-level role player. But that's just the truth. Bobo did come back with the Suns on a 1-year deal. They liked him, and they wanted to bring him back. DeAndre Jordan and the Nuggets also agree on a 1-year, $3.6 million deal. That was, to back up Jokic and have a defender in that paint. Pistons did waive Buddy Boeheim from the 2-way contract, and I would just say the last ones. Damian Lee declines his 2.8.5 option with the Suns. He was just another shooter. It's kind of unfortunate that they lost him. Purchase of Chua got declined, and that's really about it. Magic declined Mo Wagner, and everything else will be something that I reported yesterday. So thanks for watching. Thanks for enjoying the video. Other than that, comment, like, subscribe, and share. Hit the notification button to get more analysis as quick, as fast as y'all need it. Allows you to see it and know that it's there. And it also helps me out a lot. Other than that, thanks for watching. See you guys later.